Get this done by working together as a team.
Jeez, Bob. Keep buzzing in my ear.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books, I love talking about them, I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. X-Men and Alpha Flight, 2-issue limited series. And we've got Madeline Pryor and the return of Cyclops, who hasn't really been showing up. So this is from 1985. So this is the double cover. So this is the I have both these issues. I actually rebought them again because they were just beat up to trash. So I actually got better copies of these. So The Gift. Now there is a lot of dialogue in this issue. I'm gonna do my very, very best to kind of narrate this story as much as I can here. And so we've got Madeline Pryor being the pilot here. Chris Claremont is our writer. Paul Smith returns with Bob Wiacek. And then, of course, Thomas Zukowski doing fantastic on these letters. Denny O'Neil joins Ann Nocenti with the editing. And so, partly because I think he had this idea here. So, and it says this story takes place before the events depicted in Alpha Flight 25, which we're not covering. So, all right. And so we have this transport ship here. And Chris Claremont tells her the type of ship that it is, and the crew here, Canadian American Environmental Survey Team. They're going to a wilderness above the Arctic Circle. So this person here says, I hate flying. And somebody else here says, calm yourself, Cherie. It's only a little turbulence, Paul. Nothing to worry about. And he's like, famous last words. And then Scott comes out here, and it's this first appearance since, I think, the Secret Wars. So we haven't seen him very much. So he's checking on everybody. And, of course, this person here is afraid of flying here. So, all right. And he likes to draw, and he's drawing this architecture thing. He's a geologist too, and then he said, he's checking up on everybody. This guy wants to land and get to work, and so this lady here is sleeping, and then these two are talking about mutants here, and of course, Scott Summers is like, if they only knew who he was and what the X-Men do for them, and so this guy's making sure the equipment is staying. And notice it's not really strapped in. I mean, you think this requires being strapped in. So, of course, this guy here has been listening to them, and being black, he sympathizes with mutants, going, man, people just love to talk about hatred here and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of that in here. So I'm going to kind of keep moving here. He's reading this book here. You can see Ulysses. So he basically tells Scott that there's not much for him to do in the air. So he passes his time by reading. So, all right. And so Maddie calls him, and he says, is there any trouble? And she says, you might say that. I've never seen atmospherics like this. You see the lightning. Back then, there was also an engineering. There was a flight engineer, I guess they were called. So there were three. There was a pilot, a co-pilot, and then the flight engineer. But technology has eliminated the flight engineer nowadays here. And Scott says he's seen this before. Shaman from Alpha Flight had created that here. So then this guy says, "Hey, there's fire in engine number 3." And she's like, "Well, we're gonna have to put the airplane down and do a mayday." And suddenly that light, and he yells at for Maddie. And so now we're in Salem Center, which is where Professor Xavier is located. Now, it is a made up town. I think Salem is a real town in New York, but this is Salem Center here. And so they're talking about mutants on the television here. Or no, it's Doug from the New Mutants, and here we have Ileana, and he's all like, "Oh, I'm a mutant. I'm gonna, suck your blood and that kind of stuff." And so there he's having fun with the girls, and this guy grabs me, and this guy picks him up. He says, "You're lucky you're at some scummy mutie, Doug boy, or it'd be my duty as a real human being to rip you to pieces." Of course, Ileana says, "Put him down." He goes, "When I'm finished." She says, "Now, who's going to mate me?" And of course, she's demon sorceress. So he's like, "Hey, it's cool. It's cool. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." So that's pretty cool. And so they go into the alleyway, and she uses her stepping disc, which allows her to teleport here. And they get into the danger room here. And here we have Loki and Shadowcat now. She has come back from the Wolverine, sorry, Kitty Pryde and the Wolverine limited series. So she's come back from Japan here. Look at this missing child, Paul Smith. So Paul Smith was very good. And of course, we've got the X-Men in the danger room, and Rachel is among them. And she goes, "Oh my god, a Psy-Flash." And suddenly, it goes haywire. And of course, here we have the Sentinels. And so the X-Men, of course, get ready to attack. By the way, Storm is not here. Storm took off to go to Africa, so she won't be back until X-Men Annual 9. So, all right. Professor Xavier, Kitty mind calls him, says they need help. And so he sees the situation on her mind, and she's like, "I'm facing through the command console, sir, and thereby disrupting its circuitry, but it isn't having any effect. The computer systems are completely under Rachel's control." So he, of course, is going to use his powers to try and calm her down as well. So, and once that happens, the Sentinels go away. And so the professor's showing them what she received here, which is the blast or the airplane crash that contained Maddie and Cyclops. So the airplane went down, and suddenly Cyclops comes through, and of course she's like, "Daddy." She is Scott Summers' daughter from an alternate future, you could say, that won't come to pass. So, all right, now we are in Canada, and we got Shaman from the Alpha Flight, Aurora. This is Sasquatch here. So, Shaman, or is this Shaman or Shaman? I think it's Shaman. He's giving Sasquatch a physical here. And he says, "Lately, when I transform to Sasquatch, I feel less and less in control and more prone to terrible, violent berserker rages." Of course, Aurora has a split personality, and she has a personality that's very innocent and a personality that's very not nice. I guess more more forward, and she's got a thing for Sasquatch here. So, here we have then Shaman, who's a real medical doctor, and he says that he's in perfect health, and he's a biophysicist. He must have determined that for himself before he came to me. So he thinks that maybe the problem is mystical or magical. And so here we have Heather. She's the new Vindicator, I believe, because Vindicator is dead, or at least was dead during this time. I think he's back, but I don't know. I don't keep up. I don't care for Alpha Flight like at all. So, I have the issues John Byrne did, and I have the issues that Mike Mignola did after Byrne, and then I've gone back and gotten the issues Jim Lee did, but that's about it. Really don't care about them. So, and so Heather is startled, and you can see that Shaman looks behind him, and they see Snowbird, and she's like, "Shaman, my friend, save me." And you can see she's not doing very well. And he's like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Ungava Bay, the death of us all." And suddenly, Shaman is hit, and of course, it is Phoenix attacking him. And she says, "You attacked my father. I want to know why. I want him returned to me unharmed because, Witch Doctor, if he's dead," and of course, he's gonna try to use his powers. He's in agony. The girl is mad, but has no idea who he is. And of course, she takes the pouch away, and it goes into Heather. You can see it's like extra dimensional, like her arms inside hit. And so Sasquatch hears that and transforms, and out goes Aurora as well. And here's the X-Men's Blackbird, and I think this is Xavier saying, "Go after Rachel, keep her away from doing any harm." And so Aurora actually comes through, and then forces the personality change from the aggressive one to the nice one. And meanwhile, Heather's asking for help because her hand's stuck in that pouch here. And so here you see Puck and Sasquatch, and now you see Rogue has landed, and then we've got oh my god, North Star. I was like Snowstar. I forgot his name. See, I don't keep up with Alpha Flight. So he's fast and has flight. And Rogue kissed him to take his powers and drain him. And Rachel is like, "I'm through waiting. I want answers." And he's like, "I have none. I have no idea who your father is, nor do I care. You've threatened and maimed and perhaps murdered for nothing." And Sasquatch comes in. He's like, "You hurt my lady. That makes me mad." And Rachel's like, if I were a wall furball, I'd be scared stiff." And of course, Professor X is wearing this different uniform, like the one for the Novus, and he's like, so Nightcrawler teleports him here, and he yells at her telepathically, "Rachel, come with me to the astral plane." And so we see Nightcrawler offering to help here, and she's like, "I can't feel my arm." And Professor X is like, "I dare you act in such a fashion. You are an X-Men, Rachel. You have no right to tamper with another's mind, regardless of the provocation." So Nightcrawler helps, and she pulls her arm. And so Talisman is his daughter, and she heard his call, and he goes to the pouch to see if he can help Snowbird. And they go back. Here you see Xavier and Rachel go back into their bodies, and before they go, he goes, "I will not tolerate such behavior, young lady, ever again." And so she understands, and now he's going to try to undo the harm that she did. And he goes, "If it isn't too much trouble, would someone mind telling me what the heck is going on here?" And of course, she's got the other personality. She's like, "Let me go, pig. No, you cannot hold me against my will. I want to go home at once." So... and Professor X fixes her, and so she's back to the other personality. And so Shaman says she mentioned her father, and she says Rachel picked up a psychic cry from Cyclops, implying that you had ambushed him. And Shaman says, "That's nonsense. I was here with Heather the entire night. I cast no spells. I would never use my magic in such a manner against friends." And she's like, Snowbird's like, "Shaman, Cyclops' aircraft was struck down the same moment I was. There is a wrongness, a great terrible evil emanating from Ungava Bay. And we've got Nightcrawler, who is team leader at this time in the absence of Storm and Cyclops. And he says, we've been charting a phenomenally powerful mutant presence, which also appeared in that vicinity last night. 3 simultaneous incidents, a continent removes. Coincidence? And Heather says, in our line of work, Nightcrawler, I've learned there ain't no such animal. 2 heads, 2 teams may work better than 1, Professor. What say we join forces? And so Wolverine is like, that sounds pretty fair to me, darling. And Kitty's like, hey, sure, why not? The more the merrier. But our Blackbird may not be big enough for so many people. And Puck is like, leave that to me. Eugene Milton Judge will take care of everything. So we get the introduction. So now we are in Asgard, and we've got Loki here in this council here. So let me make that a little bit bigger. And so they are called We Who Sit Above in Shadow. So, nice name. And he says, I completed my task. It's now time for you to complete yours. And they say, no, not yet. They charge him to not just do good deed for the people of Earth, but in the process to prove worthy of their favor. And so they say the favor you ask of them is great and supremely precious. They don't grant it lightly. And he's like, I'm the son of Odin. It's not in my nature to ask for anything. And they're like, that's the point, to prove that nature can be changed. Even Thor had to learn to temper his expectations and his powers. So, and now it's Loki's turn. And Loki says, hey, I helped save this universe. And that was in Thor 353, which I have covered. I actually have a playlist of Walt Simonson's run on Thor if you want to see. And so this lady says, be patient. And this guy says, you will hear our judgment. And he says, I would have raged, threatened, and schemed, fought, and lost it all, but I'm not that god I was. I will remain master of myself and my emotions, behave as nobly as my doltish brother, and thereby accomplishing what is beyond even his might. Loki the Trickster, the Deceiver, the so-called god of evil, shall bring everlasting peace on Earth. And so now the X-Men and Alpha Flight are flying this old contraption here, and we've got here Vindicator, Nightcrawler, and Puck piloting here. So, and then of course we still have Professor X and Shaman taking care of Snowbird, and they're like, she's not getting any better. And so here's the rest of the team here. It's much bigger than we see this little craft here. It looks tiny, like it fits 10 people, but in here it's pretty much a full-sized aircraft. So Heather's checking on everybody, Vindicator. Aurora's still mad at Phoenix, and Phoenix is like, ugh. She's not even bothering to hide her emotions, and it's like, she's like, serves me right. And Kitty's like, yep. You know, she agrees. She overreacted. So there's a lot of exposition. Like I said, there's a lot of talking in this issue. So we get to Wolverine, who's drinking. Of course, she doesn't think the X-Men and Alpha Flight really get along, and Wolverine's like, well, what do you think? There's never been any love lost between these two outfits. He goes, want some coffee, Heather, or something stronger? You look like you could need it. She says, no thank you, Logan. I don't think he was drinking coffee here. She says she's tried to keep things going since Mac died. He was the original, is it Guardian or Vindicator? I don't know. Like I said, I don't really follow them. And she reminds Wolverine that he was the one that Mac wanted to lead the team. And Wolverine's like, I got other responsibilities, Heather, duty obligations, to both the X-Men, um, and to Herm and Mac. I gave Charlie a hard time to keep him honest, but the X-Men are my home, my family. I won't walk out on them. And she's like, we were family once. He says, you still are, but the rest of Alpha Flight are only friends. It's a big difference. And so she goes, Pug is the same way Wolverine is with the X-Men, is with Alpha Flight. So, and she talks about North Star. She says, so much anguish and rage in him. He won't share with anyone. He's so afraid of being hurt and vulnerable. And Wolverine is like, I'm surprised he agreed to join this mission. You know, he quit the team. Oh, sorry, that was her. He's gone ahead and scouted. I hope he'll be all right. And Wolverine's like, not to worry. Rogue tagged along. She did what? Jim Paul teamed with a woman, especially her. Logan, they'll kill each other. And Wolverine's like, maybe, maybe not. So here we are. Paul Smith is a phenomenal penciler. I really like them. I wish he would have stuck it out instead of being replaced by John Romita Jr. It's not that I hate John Romita Jr. I just think Paul Smith is a superior artist. And so she asked him, did you find anything? He's like, nope, go back to the others. I don't need help. And Rogue is like, and I thought I had a chip on the shoulder. And she surprised him, by the way, I speak French. She's from the Bayou country. And so, of course, she tells him, you can't fool me. I was you. And he's like, you didn't have the right. And she's like, I didn't have a choice. I can't control my power, basically. And, he was all being himself, basically, because North Star's always very... and so Chris Claremont just loves to give people just that exposition here. So, and North Star loves having his powers, and she's like, I wish I didn't have mine, basically. And she's walking through, and suddenly you see this whoop. So that thing that she had, she's like, North Star. And he's like, Rogue, where did you get this? That was him that took it out. On the other side of those mountains, a whole field. And he's like, this is prairie or summer prairie grass. It doesn't grow in midwinter. He's like, stay here. I will bring the others. And so he's going to let everybody know what Rogue found. Of course, he's like, I don't know why I came here. Aurora wants nothing from him. Of course, she's got the two personalities, so we don't know. She's like, man, it's just like opposites attract and likes repel. So, all right. So here we are now back in the airplane. I do apologize, just kind of narrating. I know a lot of you guys are used to me kind of just reading. It's just this would take an hour. So Snowbird's getting worse, and here comes the airplane, and of course here is the field. And so they land, and Nightcrawler's like, what the heck? And if you remember in the beginning, that guy drawing this, you can see that he sort of created this this thing here, and they're all like, holy cow, but look how big this is. So they should have been able to seen it. I mean, there is no way, let me go back, that they couldn't see this when they landed, and all of a sudden he looks up like, what the heck? Like, you would have seen this thing from the air, but that's all right. And so here comes a figure here, and they go, do you think it's someone hostile? And they're Wolverine, of course, knows who it is. He got the thing. He says, nope, anything but. And, of course, it is Cyclops. And he says, welcome to paradise. And notice he does not have his optic blast in there. And he says he's cured. And Professor says, that's wonderful. And so Cyclops says, just your basic everyday out of the blue garden variety miracle. So Rachel has the nerve, or is trying to work the nerve to introduce herself. And Kitty's like, oh, poor Rachel. She looks sad. This must be awful. And so they all make um introductions here. Um, she says, please don't tell him. And Professor Xavier introduces her, but doesn't say anything. He just says, her name is Rachel, and so here we go. And they're all walking through. You can see very Nordic, all that stuff here as they're walking through. And here's everybody here. So we got Maggie, and then this is basically everyone that was on the ship here. And so, and look how big Maggie is. So so she says that they've been blessed with gifts too magnificent to describe. And Professor is, what do you mean? I don't understand. She says, allow me to demonstrate. Pug, dwarfism is a disease, in your case, a terrible curse. And she's like, how does she know? And so she goes and takes him. She touches him, and you can see he kind of goes on fire. He goes, the pain is gone, and suddenly he is um, regular sized here, and he's not used to it, so he kind of falls down here. So, um, and she says, I'm afraid your next few days will be something of an ordeal while your body accustoms itself to this new dimensions. And Pug says, I don't know how I'll ever repay you. And she says, seeing you walk again, hearing your laughter is thanks enough. So, um, and Professor X speaks to Rachel telepathically. He's like, if Scott was healed in a similar manner, then that was what I saw in my sci flash and all the grief I caused. Such recriminations are needless, Rachel. How could any of us have suspected? And so, um, Sasquatch asks for help, and so she cures him, and she cures everybody, and just, of course, North Star has a bit of a relationship with his sister that probably borders on the unhealthy, and she's like, "Hey, let her go," and so, Rogue tries to calm him down. He's like, "Hey, she's really happy," and Wolverine's trying to calm him down as well. Um, she feels whole because she got both the personalities taken care of as well, and Shaman suspects something's wrong. He's like, could such a wondrous talent aid Snowbird? She didn't come with us. Why didn't I notice? How could I have been so careless? And so he says, my friend, something has happened to Snowbird. She must still be on the plane. And so the age must be catching with me. I've failed her as both physician and friends. And so Aurora says, the aircraft is empty, Shaman. There's no sign of Snowbird anywhere near it. And Wolverine says, I'll find her. And this guy says, I'm a Pathfinder, Wolverine, and Boyd Wilson has dominion over the animal kingdom. He can use local animals for scouts. We'd like to come along. And he's like, suit yourself. And Wolverine catches Snowbird's sense, and he's wondering, there's something wrong. She goes, it's as if she's deliberate masking her trail, and wonders what is wrong. And so the professor's like, fascinating. Each member of Madeline's party has been raised to their ultimate human potential. They have become true Homo sapien superiors. So, so they have food here for everybody. And so, she's the cook, here. And you can see that, she's like, I'm not going to have you people dressed like that at the table. And so she changes how everybody looks here. And Kitty's like, cute outfit, Peter. It suits you. I wonder, could Miss Ballinger conjure up enough to single-handedly end famine and want? Wouldn't that be something? And Colossus says, yes, it would be. That is a dream worth dying for here. And Rogue says, "Excuse me, madam, looking. You know, you've got no control over my power. I do know if that qualifies sickness or anything." And Maddie's like, "It costs nothing to try, Rogue." And so, um, she does the same thing, and so he is going to volunteer, and so she goes, "Oh my God, I'm cured." She touched him and nothing happened, and you can see she gives him a kiss. Um, so, um, so Professor X is not sure. This is all on the kosher, and Cyclops says, "Hey, you can probe our minds," and so he does, and he goes, "Huh," and suddenly he comes up, and Cyclops says, "Something wrong, Professor? You look surprised." And Xavier says, "Small wonder, Cyclops, when I scan for 2 minds and I find 3." So this is where Maddie announces that she is pregnant with the child that will eventually become Cable. And he's like, "What's talking about? What's going on?" And they're like, "You're going to have a baby." And then she goes, "But is it the girl that'll grow up to be me?" And of course we know it is not. And um Cyclops says, "Why didn't you tell me?" And Maddie says, "I wasn't sure until the transformation. And then I decided to wait until my healing powers made certain he wasn't affected by it. Congratulations, hero. Your son's going to be perfect." And they kiss here. And of course, Rachel is like, drops everything. She goes, "Son, boy, but I was firstborn and only child. That means whatever happens, I'll never be." Well, of course, the future has changed. She's the daughter of Jean Grey. Jean Grey is not Maddie. So, in this time, in this reality, Rachel Summers never can, never will exist, and she runs. And Kitty calls for her, and Cyclops like, "What the?" And Professor X like, "Shadowcat, follow her." And she goes, "I'm on my way." And so she knows what's up, but doesn't know how to help him. And Shaman says, "Talisman, go with Shadowcat." And she goes, "Wait, Dad, what's it to do with us?" And he says, "Firstly, Elizabeth, whatever you think of the X-Men, they are our teammates, and we Alphans look after our own. More importantly, we still know too little about this place. Despite Cyclops' assurances, I am far from satisfied. This is a splendid opportunity to learn." And so she does. And you can see someone is watching from up here, I believe, here. So, um, and so this guy here, I forgot his name. "You needn't worry, Professor. I built the citadel. It's perfectly safe. There's nothing in it that can hurt anyone." And this guy here says, "You can see, Professor, Carla can feed the world. Paul's house it. There's no limit to the good we can do." And Professor S, "And your gift, Mr. Rossi? I'm sort of a living librarian. Through me, the knowledge of the ages, every book ever written, every story ever told, is yours for the asking. At the moment, I've but a single question. And here, sir, as I promised, is the answer." And so we call it our magic fountain. It reaches from the roof to the sky to the heart of the world. Pretty cool. And so we're almost done here. And I'm pretty good. I just narrated because, man, oh man, we would have been here forever. And so, um, Heather Vindicator is walking towards that light, and she becomes transformed and comes back. Very cool here. And so you can see that she's also bigger and stronger. And Nightcrawler is like, "Do you realize the implications? The fantastic light has the capability of making everyone on Earth superpowered being like us. Think of it. We mutants will no longer be outcasts. There's no more need to hate or be hated." I don't think that's true. People hate. They'll find reasons to. And Professor S says, "So it would seem, Nightcrawler." And Professor X thinks, "It's the goals I've sought my entire adult life. Why then am I so suspicious? What will it take to put my doubts to rest?" And so this guy says, "Hey, something's happening to Shaman." And so here he's being attacked by these demon looking things, these creatures here. and you can see Maddie is gonna go try to help him here. And she says, Aurora Northstar, take this as far from Shaman as you can and hurry. But she goes by Anodin? Nah. Anyway, Madeline here. Without it, what will become a Shaman? With it, he is surely doomed. And so they go, and these creatures are after him, and so they toss it and they go after him here. And so they go here, and they all take a look, and Northstar says, Shaman, how is he? And she says, the creatures hurt him terribly, Northstar. Try as I might, my healing talent has no effect on his wounds. Forgive me, Alpha Flight, but Michael, 2 young men, is dying. And it says here, and with him perhaps a dream. So we will conclude this with X-Men and Alpha Flight number 2. So, all right. X-Men Alpha Flight number 1, written by Chris Claremont, penciled by Paul Smith. Oh, great return from him, and inked by Bob Wiacek. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.